So when Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, ask yourself, Muslims, who was he praying to? He was praying to the same Allah as the pagans. Something else that's going to get them busted. Jinn are made out of fire. But it says right here that Allah made from water every living thing. If Allah is outside of everything, when he looks at things, where does he process it? Where is it taking place? The Quran itself is a weak hadith because from the very start, the isnad, the chain of narration is broken. Pulling up Surah 21:30.
Have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing? Then will they not believe?
Boom. Okay. Surah 21:30 just proved everything that I was saying. The key word, joint entity, a entity outside of time and space, because he said come into being, right? Now, this verse is a contradiction to Surah 41:11. It said, have those who disbelieve not considered that the heavens and the earth, and this is a false translation. I gotta point this out. It doesn't say consider, it says, do they not see? And the reason why they didn't put see right there like it really says in the Arabic, because it's a stupid verse. Because it's Allah going to unseen evidence to validate seen evidence. He's saying, have those who disbelieve not considered the heavens and the earth, but it really says see. How can somebody see that the heavens and the earth were a joint entity, and you are saying that as evidence for why they should believe in Allah when nobody was created during the time of this story or this event, when you saying that the heavens and earth were joined together?
Also in 41:11, he's not addressing a single entity. He addresses two separate entities in the smoke and the earth, and they, as a plural, answer him in a, as a we, rather than it would be the one unity, the one unified entity saying, yes, I will come into being, and then being separated out into the earth and the smoke. So, sorry, go ahead.
It also points out another thing, Kay, that it's like a trinity. In 21:30, it's a trinity because it's saying it's joined. It's two separate.
It's a duality for the, yeah.
It's a duality, right? It's like smoke and earth joined together, but yet they are different, but they in one. Now, in this verse, you have Allah saying, so he separated the two. But in the other verse, it says he called them to come together. So which one is it? Can you read 41:11 again and compare it to 21:30?
Okay. Is this, then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke and said to it and to the earth. So the and is a conjoining word. It joins the two separate things. And to the earth, come, in brackets, into being, willingly or by compulsion. They said, so not one of them, they said, we have come willingly.
That's what 41:11 says. And in 21:30, it says that they was joined together. But 41:11 doesn't say anything about them being joined together.
No,
so that's a contradiction. So which one is it?
It goes on to say, and we separated them and made from water every living thing. And I would challenge that. I don't have the reference on me because I didn't know this was like what you were going to be discussing. But I know of a verse that says that Adam was created from a clot or a sperm, or I think the dust or the earth, something like that, or the clay. So, I mean, that in itself is like a bit of a discrepancy that Allah doesn't, like in different parts, he says he ascribes different origins to Adam. But other than that, we learn here, quite surprisingly, that everything is made from water. And yet he forgets to mention that when discussing the creation of the first man, Adam. So I would consider that, like if this was an essay and I was being asked to grade it, like I would say, well, I need some, like something to tie that narrative up and to, what is the actual original material.
And something else that I like to point out, it says we separated them and made from water every living thing, okay? But they were already living. But it says that he made, and it says that he separated them and made from water every living thing, but they was already living because he was speaking to them in 41:11. So how were they made out of water? And he said he made it from water after he separated them every living thing. And something else that's going to get them busted. Jinn are made out of fire.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Jinn are made out of fire, but it says right here that Allah made from water every living thing. Don't make sense.
Yeah.
They was already living, Kay. You get what I'm saying? They was already alive. He was already speaking to them. They was even alive space.
Before creation.
Remember how we pointed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember how we pointed out he called them into physical being? They was already alive, so they wasn't made out of water like it says.
Unless there comes a prequel to the Quran with a further story about the state that they were in pre-existence, we have to assume, I guess, that they're eternal also. Because if they understand Allah's speech, if they are comfortable enough to address him without any reverence, if they are non-conjoined but in some sort of unity, depending on which verse you go to, they for sure existed before the creation of the official heaven and the official earth, because as we know in Islam, there's more than one heaven anyway, so there's 7 of them, I believe. So yeah, we don't know which numbered heaven this is that was joined to the earth. I'm guessing like the lowest one, but yeah, it asks more questions than it answers really, and that's just 2 ayah. So
right, like it's so much, it's so much you can expose. Like the Quran is like this. It's so disorganized that you don't have to read it to expose it, because it's not organized anyway. You just go to the parts that is going to contradict itself. Now, this is another thing, Kay, a big point. How can something uncreated have contradictions in it?
Not even that. How can God, who is all-knowing and perfect, have any contradictions? Like he can't,
exactly.
Because he's the creator of all. He's the author and finisher of my faith anyway. So,
and Kay, I want to bring something else up to point. You know how Muslims say, because we're gonna clear the whole table right here. You know how Muslims say that Allah cannot enter into creation?
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
Can you pull up that Bible verse? As a matter of fact, let me pull this verse up. The Bible had it right all the while. I'm gonna tell you what I'm talking about. Muslims say that Allah does not enter into creation. I'm about to bust that right now. It don't make sense. Here's why, Kay. Me and you, we have eyes. Mm-hmm. Although you can't see my eyes, we both have eyes, and our eyes are connected to our brain. So everything we see that appears to be outside of us is really taking place internally inside of us, because the brain processes the images.
Yeah.
So basically, the outside is an illusion.
Well, the outside is happening, but the processing of the outside can only take place on the inside. So if there are no eyes to see, the things to exist, but not for the person. So not for me. If my eyes are covered, I can't tell you how many fingers you're holding up. I can't access reality. Yeah.
Everything is a projection of the brain. Even what you think you're feeling from the outside, you couldn't feel it without your brain processing.
Nerves in your brain. Yeah.
Your spinal cord and everything. Everything is taking place internal. That's why I said that the outside is an illusion. So everything that you see is processing your brain. Everything that you hear is processing your brain. Everything you taste is processing your brain. Everything you smell, your nose, your nasal passages, they right under your right there under your brain. Everything is taking place in your brain. That's why you are basically your brain. Your body is basically like
is a vehicle for a driver.
Yeah. Okay. Everything, if Allah is all seeing, right? That means everything that he beholds is taking place what? Within his consciousness. So just like for us, how can you be outside of what's taking place on the inside of you? Because whatever Allah is looking at, it's been processed internally within his consciousness. And that's why I'm about to read this verse from the Bible that proves what I'm saying. Acts 17:28 KJV. For in him we live and move and have our what? Being. As certain also of your own prophets have said, for we are all his offspring. That means we are the offspring of his thoughts, of his creation from inside of him, because it tells you, for in him we live and move and have our being.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that what I was just saying?
Yeah.
Everything's taking place on the inside.
Yeah, because God is, our God is powerful enough to enter creation, not with not one eye or whatever we were discussing earlier, the hen toes, but our God is literally everywhere at the same time.
Everywhere.
So we must live in him, we must move in him, and have our being in him. Yeah, and we are his children. Yeah.
Yeah, so my question to the Muslims is, after reading this verse, which makes so much sense, even scientifically, like the example I explained with the eye and the brain process and everything on the inside, if Allah is outside of everything, when he looks at things, where does he process it? Where is it taking place?
I think that's why he has to have the arrangement with Jibril, and with Muslims having I think a jinn on either shoulder, or an angel. I can't remember, to be honest. That weigh their good deeds and their bad deeds. But there's a hadith that says an angel will not come somewhere where there's the ringing of a bell, or I think a dog.
Yeah. I was just about to say that, what you just said.
Yeah.
That's good. So as you see, the way Muslims describe Allah, he doesn't exist. Perfect. Even, let's break down the usage of words, right? All words were created to navigate through a tangible universe. That's the only reason why you need words. To navigate through a tangible
ideas, to be able to function, to be able to socialize,
exactly. Because we learn through word and picture association. Apple, flash a card with a red apple, make the vowel sound for You teach a child how to read through word and picture association. All words were created for a tangible universe. Muslims say that Allah is outside of everything. He is intangible, he is inconceivable, and he is incomprehensible to the human mind. If that's the case, then how can you apply any word to something that exists outside of the tangible universe where words were created to be used at in the first place? Perfect. So that means every word in the Quran that's related to Allah, it falls flat on its face.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when you say the word he, the word he, that wasn't created for a being outside of everything that's inconceivable, incomprehensible, and intangible. No words in the dictionary was created for beings like that. In fact, you can't even call Allah a being, because the word being begins with the prefix be. You got to be somewhere to be a being. You got to be N-G, being inside of something, in a body, a physical structure. So to even call Allah a being, you are miscommunicating, and you are inappropriately
describing qualities that do not befit him.
Excellent. Right. You inappropriately using the word. It's a misusage of words. So every word in the Quran that's directed to Allah is a misusage of words. Islam is sexist because out of all
wait, can we get that groundbreaking news again?
Islam is sexist. And I'm gonna tell you why.
I don't believe you. Prove it.
With these words. I'm gonna tell you why. Here's why, Kay. Because Allah is not a gender. So why call him a he? Why does it matter? Why can't he be a she? Why can't she be a he? Why pick he instead of saying she?
Yeah.
So the Muslims say she, I worship Allah, my she God, but it's not a gender anyway. So why does it matter if you call it she or he? Because either way, you are misappropriating the word. I just explained that words were created for things in the tangible universe. So if you're going to call Allah a he, which is not really a he because he doesn't fall under that definition, why not just say a she? So from now on, I'm going to refer to Allah as she. So Muslims worship
No, you can't do that, because that would imply that she is only half as intellectually efficient as a male counterpart, because as we know, Muhammad had never seen, like the women he knew anyway were deficient in mind and religion, and they were all she. So that's also unbefitting to Allah's majesty. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. Like, everything we saying is tying and connecting. Like, I don't know how much time we got left, but
just in closing, so I would reiterate, oh gosh, there's so many things we've touched on, but for sure, Allah has entered into time and space, because we know that Muslims will eventually recognize him in his true form. So he has a shape. A shape must be, by definition, in creation, because even when they look towards him, their eyes, with their 150,000 light sensitive nerve endings, they are also in creation. It's a miracle of our God's creation that the human eye exists in such a way that it relays information, it flips the image, it's interpreted by the brain that God gave us, women included, and they all fire on all cylinders. So that proves that Allah is not only in creation, because I've heard people argue, but they're just looking towards their Lord, but their sight is in creation. So if he can be perceived within creation, he is in some form in creation.
Perfect.
Other than that, I would point out that an all-powerful God, so you could argue he just doesn't want to. That's absolutely fine. But what I've heard is he cannot enter creation. And that, for me, means he is not all powerful. He doesn't have ultimate potentiality, because there is something he cannot do, or choose it, or will not do. And to me, I know that the God of the Bible, who I serve, can do all things, and that I, through him, can do all things. That his plans for us as Christians are to prosper us, not to harm us, to give us a future and a hope. That's what it says in Jeremiah. That's one of my favorite verses. And I just don't understand a God who advocates like some of the things. So that's it. So when you say why is he called a he, Allah? I would suggest that comes from Muhammad's veneration of the Torah. Literally, he placed it on a cushion. He said, I accept thee and the one who sent thee, which is Yahweh.
Right.
So Muhammad, venerated the Torah. Potentially, I imagine that in the Islamic narrative, it was yet to be corrupted in the 7th or 8th century, 7th century when he did that. But because Yahweh is known as Father, therefore we know that he has a male essence. And I think that's translated into the Quran, because Allah claims ownership of the Torah and the Injil by saying that he revealed them in Hebrew, because obviously he learned a new language by then. So yeah, that's my wrap up. Have you got anything further to add?
Well, after what we said today, that's the nail in the coffin. I mean, it's nothing. It's no way you can logically refute anything that we said today. So next time we meet, we'll just go into Surah 2106 and some other things that I want to bring up, and we can
Brilliant.
we can just smash it. Because I'm the type of person. What I want to say is, I usually don't even debate Muslims until first they got to tell me what is it that you are worshiping. Because if I just wanted to disprove the Quran, I can just throw something at them like this. Just real quick, can you pull up And this kind of relates to the coronavirus thing. Just real quick, can you pull up Surah 14:35?
So, and then bracketed, mention, O Muhammad, when Abraham said, my Lord, make this city, in brackets, Mecca, secure and keep me and my sons away from worshipping idols. And that's Surah 14, Ayah 35.
When I'm dealing with Muslims, the first thing that I tell them is, first, because I really don't debate Muslims, I smash Muslims. I just smash their whole rhetoric before it gets off the ground.
Modesty as well.
And first, I say, before I talk to anybody about religion, you got to tell me, what is it that you are worshiping? Is it a spirit? Is it an energy? Is it matter? What is Allah? They can't tell you what Allah is. At least the pagan Arabs had a stone or something that they could touch or could tell you. The Muslims today, he don't have anything. He doesn't even know what he's worshiping. He doesn't know where he's going in the afterlife. He doesn't have any clue, because Allah is not a spirit, because they are not connected to Allah. They are like a child with no umbilical cord. It's like they're just floating around like lost matter, lost particles of matter through space with no connection to God. They don't know who God is. They don't have no umbilical cord.
There's no person, there can be no relationship with a slave master. So because there's no connection, no personal, like Allah, I don't know that he's touching the hearts of Muslims. And I've heard Muslims say that it causes them great anxiety not to know if Allah is pleased with their, with their performance of their rituals and their daily devotions and stuff like that. You can't ever be sure that he's satisfied. And so it's an endless task of trying to please a God who's separate.
Well done.
And there you go. And to cut it short,
Very sad.
Allah is the imagination of Muhammad. That's why they don't know who he is. Allah is Muhammad. It's whatever he said, because when Muhammad, you see how I'm saying Allah and Muhammad's twisting it up, because they really the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say Muhammad, I'm saying Allah. If I say Allah, I'm saying Muhammad. So when Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but he was in a cave, right? While he was in the cave, the Muslims were still worshiping Allah, the pagan god of the three daughters, the cranes. Remember the three cranes?
Alat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. Yeah.
Right. And notice how their names begin with Al.
Yeah, one of them is the feminine form of Allah. Yeah, Allah.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Allah, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza. It's just pagan gods.
Perfect.
So when Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, ask yourself, Muslims, who was he praying to? He was praying to the same Allah as the pagans. Yeah, and his father was named Abdullah, which means slave of Allah. Muhammad said himself that his father went to hell. So if his father went to hell and he was worshiping the same Allah that Muhammad was worshiping in the cave of Hira, and during this time, the only view that Muhammad had of Allah was just like every other pagan. He didn't have no Quran. He didn't have no monotheism. And while he was in the cave of Hira, the 360 idols were still being stored in the Kaaba.
Mm-hmm.
So while your prophet was in that cave praying to Allah, the idols were still being housed in the Kaaba. So tell me, who is he praying to? He's praying to the pagan deity. Now, how can you get a divine true revelation while praying to a pagan deity? That's telling you that the revelation that he got was from a demonic visitation, because you can't get a true revelation while praying to a false pagan god. So that's why
unlikely.
The Quran is false, because it didn't come from prayer to the real true God. It came from prayer to the Allah who had three daughters.
Yeah.
And then they want to, you know how they're so good to reject hadiths? When you think about it, the Quran itself is a hadith. What was that verse you had said?
It says,
what was that verse you had said?
Well, the verse that I just thought of is the challenge within the Quran to bring a hadith like this. So the hadith like this implies that the Quran is itself a hadith. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna piggyback off what you just said. The way Muslims are so fast to reject a hadith, even if it's a sahih. Anytime they hear something that doesn't support their rhetoric, they quick to reject it. But I'm about to get them busted. And I'm not doing this with no animosity. I'm doing this just to shine light. This is not no personal attack. I'm just talking about information. Now, the Quran itself is a weak hadith because from the very start, the isnad, the chain of narration is broken because the demon spirit that visited Muhammad, he didn't formally address himself. He didn't say who he was.
As the
So
as
this was
angels do in the Bible, I might add.
Yeah, like the angels in the Bible do. That's like the angels in the Bible do. That's a real hadith that you can record back to who gave the narration. But when it comes to the Quran, the hadith that the saying that Muhammad got in the cave, he don't know who the first narrator is. So from the very start, the Quran is a weak hadith because they don't know who the narrator is. Who is the first narrator? The person, I believe one of Muhammad's relatives told him who.
Oh, he went to his wife, and his wife took him to Waraka, who was a heretical Christian or an early, it's some sect of Christianity. So yeah, that's, I believe really that I suppose Waraka is the founder of Islam, because if he didn't say, yes, this is clearly Jibreel, and I don't know how he got the clearly Jibreel, because Gabriel doesn't go around in the Bible throttling people or compelling them to read anything or recite. So I'm not sure on his ID techniques. I know he didn't have a photo fit. Like, I don't know how he just got to that massive conclusion. And also Hafs, the guy whose Quran is, I believe, Saudi Arabia accept the Hafs Quran. He himself, his own hadith, other than the Quran, are also mainly considered weak, because he is recorded, as people who watch Christian Prince will see, that he is a weak narrator because of his dishonesty. So he's accused of stealing books and basically like plagiarizing other people's stuff. So to not accept his hadith as weak, but to accept his Quran, to me, is just mind-boggling. I don't understand it.
And to add to that, Kate, have you heard that hadith that says that Muhammad said that anybody who made up a false hadith about him would go into the hellfire? Have you heard that one?
I think I might have. Hell is going to be pretty busy.
Sorry? Yeah, we can bring it up next show. But we can bring it up next show.
I'll line it up for another time.
Yeah, because it says, so that means the Quran that they have today, the Hafs narration, they are narrating the words of a man that's right now presently in hell. And to add to what she said, or to add what I was saying, like Waraka, as she just said, is the one who told Muhammad that it was Jibril. So that proves my point that the Quran is a weak hadith because the eyewitness report was not there. You can't take an eyewitness from somebody else that's not even on the scene. Where they do that at? The courtroom won't accept anything like that. And this is another thing. You was talking about he was a Catholic or something you had said. So that proves that.
Oh, a heretical Christian.
Yeah, a Christian, a heretical Christian.
Yeah.
So that means from the gate, Islam borrowed from the Bible, using a angel name from the Bible, a Hebrew name, because it ends with L.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it have an Arabic name? It's a Hebrew name, so that means it's borrowed from the Judeo-Christian.
The true name from El Gabor, from God, like actual Yahweh. So yeah. The thing is, if Arabic is the divine language of Allah, his preferred like mother tongue, I don't know how to say it, then why is he busy sending 124,000 prophets to different nations in their own tongue? Because if he is an all-powerful God, he could make Arabic some kind of, like, encoded into your DNA almost. He could make people understand it, because with the Holy Spirit, we are able to discern and understand things that without it, like, you know, so Christians reading the Bible have a completely different experience from non-Christians, because we have discernment and we have the Spirit to guide us in wisdom and in truth. So yeah, I think we're gonna.
That's a
I think
brilliant
we have
point.
to wrap it up though. So what are your final thoughts?
Well, my final thought is about what you just said. Why couldn't Allah encode? Because when you read the Bible at Pentecost, God gave them the ability to understand
Yes.
every language. Like the apostles, when they went out, they could understand. So Allah, you know,
each heard it in their own tongue.
yeah, he did it. So that's a good point that you made. But in closing, like I say, like Islam to me is not, I don't call it debating. It's just pointing out the illogical things and statements within Islam, the contradictions within Islam, like everything I said today. Like I don't see how it's hard or to get tangled up, like you stuck and can't have an answer to the question a Muslim asks you, or you can't refute what they say. It's so easy to destroy. Like I was asking you, like to bring up, like, oh, I didn't mention this. This will be my last thing. That's
Okay.
Surah 1435. Okay, in that verse that you put up, when you read the tafsir on that verse by Jalalain, that's a covenant that Allah made with Abraham, and Allah granted the covenant. And when you read a tafsir, it tells you that Allah was supposed to secure Mecca and that no blood was supposed to be spilled in Mecca. So from that verse alone, you may as well just trash the Quran, because when you do your history, and even in the Islamic sources, Mecca was overthrown by a man by the name of Karmati. And you can look it up. They call it the Karmatians, something like that. Mm-hmm. And what they did is he stole the black stone. Mm-hmm. He killed Muslims, and he killed the Muslim pilgrims who was at Hajj, stole the black stone, and he threw their bodies in the Zamzam well, which is in Mecca.
Yeah.
And
it's where Hagar and Ishmael found secure in the wilderness. Yeah.
He spilled their blood and everything, but Surah 1435 says that Allah was supposed to secure Mecca. And not only that, but the Muslims had to pay a ransom to get the black stone back. Allah didn't get it back for them. They had to go out their pockets. They had to pay a ransom. There's another hadith that says that the black stone is the right hand of Allah. So you telling me
hang on, Muslims. It's going to grow a mouth at the end of time. I know I'm running out of time, but at the end of time, the Kaaba will grow a mouth and it will vouch. It tells us that far from being the house of Abraham, or, you know, a comet or whatever it's supposed to be, it's only there to differentiate between Muslims and non-Muslims, and to point out Jews who are hiding, you know. So it's got multiple functions, even though in the Quran or the Hadith, I'm not sure, we're told that it just has the one function, which is to justify Muslims before Allah. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
They say, like you said, in the last days, it's supposed to grow a mouth, tongue, and testify on who touched it and all of that. How are we supposed to do that? And today, the black stone is broken up into tiny pieces. Muslims have to glue it together just to hold it up in the corner of the Kaaba. There's a hadith that says that the black stone is the right hand of Allah. So you telling me that the right hand of Allah was stolen and broken into 7 pieces, and this is the same
It can't end creation, so I don't know how.
It entered creation, and this is the same stone that Muhammad said in a hadith that if you rub it, it will erase your sins. So this stone will grant you salvation, but the very stone that you're supposed to rub to grant you salvation, it couldn't even save itself from getting stolen and broken into 8 pieces. So you telling me you betting upon a stone being able to wipe away your sins, but this very stone with this magical power couldn't even save itself, keyword salvation, couldn't even save itself from being stolen and broken into pieces, but you believe that rubbing a broken stone that couldn't save itself from devastation will wipe away your sins.
Muslims,
You see?
repent and come to Christ. I don't know what else to say. Like, I think that wraps it up nicely, but a stone is not going to save you. There are Bible verses about, like, literally worshipping stones and wood. It will avail you nothing. Sins cannot be erased. They can only be justified by the blood of Christ, as we know. And thank you very much, Jacob, for coming to speak to me. And we're going to do some more of these videos, and you'll be seeing those soon.
I'm gonna get back on that stone next time, because y'all not gonna escape that stone. I got more to go into about that stone.
No worries.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Also remember that Jacob's channel on YouTube is The False Prophet. Ironically,
False prophet.
I don't know if he just pulled that out of the air and then found one to polemicize. But anyway, thanks very much, and we'll talk again soon. God bless everybody in the comments. All right, bye.